Hey there, Kevin. I've been seeing the Sinder stuff come back up because of her releasing the 1,000-page document. And I'm not super qualified to speak on it because I hadn't read over everything for myself. And I don't really follow anybody involved. But the understanding I do have doesn't really match up to some of the responses that I'm seeing. And so I thought I would go through what I'm understanding, and maybe at least one of us can help the other one out. The biggest thing that I'm seeing that really doesn't make any sense is people saying that the whole thing is moot because she took Red back. Now, they could have a point if the document was an apology. And their point would be, she would be saying that she's a changed person, but her actions are the same. But the document pretty clearly isn't an apology. No, it's got apologies in it. But the main point of the document is to be a defense. And so she's not saying, I'm a changed person. She's saying I was never a bad person to begin with. Except for the apologies that do exist, of course, but it's not the main point. And you can kind of tell that the main point of the document is to be a defense, because in her tweet where she released the document, she was saying that you've been lied to, you know. Now, as for Red himself, I do agree that he seems to be a bit of a gossip, but I also get the impression that he's a pretty good businessman. I see some people saying, you know, why keep him on as your manager if you're not going to let him do communication? But I think it may be more that manager isn't really an accurate description of what he was doing, or at least what he was good at doing. Because you got a lot of things that you could be doing on the planning side of things, like planning new models, seeing what's the popular trends going on. And I get the impression he was pretty good at doing that sort of thing. And speaking of the business side of things, I did think there were some people who had a problem with him saying that more people having Nano's art would lessen the value of her art. Now, whether it was insensitive to say or not, I'm gonna, withhold judgment on that. I'm not the best judge of that. But I think it's pretty clear that it's the truth. You think about any sort of trend in media, once it becomes, more popular, or any sort of, artistic trend, it really loses its value, or its perceived value, I should say. Like, think about the corporate blob art style. If it was just one or two companies using it, rather than everybody under the sun, I think it'd be a lot less hated than it currently is. Another thing is the whole greed angle. Yeah, people talk about whether or not Sinder is greedy. Being all for the money. And I'm inclined to say that it wasn't that she was greedy, it was that she was prideful, envious, competitive, in some sense, you could say. And that it was all about the reputation. If I recall, I read something that the richest people in the world, they're not really aiming to get more money in order for them to have, more for themselves. But they're trying to get more money in order to have more than the other people. Just using the money or the wealth as a measuring stick. Yeah, I think that might be the case here as well. Though I don't know enough to say for certain. Now, another thing that I've seen, and this was more back when the first wave hit, was that this whole thing could have been handled privately. But even though I've seen people say it, I don't really feel like anybody has held that against Nano or any of the other people that initially released the information. And it's hard for me to even remember what the whole thing was about, but I guess I'm kind of inclined to agree that this was something that really could have been handled privately. Now, if Nano had gone to her and said, this is bad and nothing had changed, and then she had gotten the group of girls together and they went to her and nothing had changed still, then at that point it might be more justified to bring it to the public. And of course, all that's contingent on the complaints being true to begin with, which I don't really want to make a judgment on that, because that would require having a little bit more knowledge of everything that went on. Now, another thing is a sort of crazy theory that I have, which I believe somewhere in the document, Sinder said that the tweet from Lily is what really canceled her. But I have a different idea. Now, all that stuff would have had to happen. This isn't something that will stand on its own. But if we're talking about what has kept her reputation from it recovering the most, might actually be the Neuro collab and the Neurostradamus event. Because all these original documents that came out, it was sort of like behind the curtain stuff. It's not something that we saw ourselves happen. And so there's this idea of, even if it's really unlikely, it's like, it could be faked. It could be missing context, which I think is what Sinder was claiming. But with the Neuro thing, it was all out in the open right there. Now, it wasn't enough to build a case on by itself. But the fact that it was not hidden in any way, really, or as in we had the whole context, made it seem like more evidence, like a third party confirming it, or even a first party almost.